This video is sponsored by Muckov, and right now you can enjoy a 20% discount off their entire range by using a special code at their website linked down below.
Hi, I'm Jim from jimthebikeguy.com. I'm here today with Dave Arthur from Just Ride Bikes, and today we're going to be talking about bar tape, taping your bars. Now, a lot of people feel that this is quite a difficult job. I would say it's not once you know how to do it. There isn't a definitive method, but there are methods, and I'm going to show you how I do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you taking the old bar tape off, how to do that, what to look for in the process once you've got that bar tape off, because you can run some little checks on your cables and hoses at the same time. And then we're going to open a new packet of bar tape, we're going to stick it on, and we're going to finish with a taped bike. So we've got this lovely giant TCX cross bike here. Some fool has decided to put white bar tape on it, and you can see it's gone a bit manky. I'll give you a clue. That fool is me. Oops, never mind. So I'm going to replace it today. So we're going to take this old stuff off. So the first thing you need to do is roll the hoods back. So at the back of your shifters, you've always got this area here. It doesn't matter whether it's Shimano, SRAM, Campag, makes no difference. Be quite robust, get hold of that, roll it back. Take it nice and far back like that, and you're looking to get to a point where you've exposed the back of the shifter and the clamp, which is currently hidden under there. And it also shows you how to kind of do this bit. This is called the figure of 8, by the way. Shows you how this has been done, because we're going to come back to that in a little bit. Next job, get your fingernails or something, but try and avoid a Stanley knife in case you accidentally snip through a hose, and start unwrapping this trim tape here, and that which we normally use to seal the bar tape down. I will return to that as a theme later on. Roll that up, chuck it in the bin, and you can see that underneath this bar tape has also been fixed down with good old electrical tape. That's the gold standard. The other stuff I just threw away is great, but it's mainly cosmetic. As I unwrap it, it brings the old bar tape with it. Okay, we're in, and I'm just going to crack on. I'm just going to start pulling it off. And in the process of doing this, you're probably going to trash the old bar tape. So if you've got any intentions of reusing what's already on there, you're probably going to lose it in the process of doing this. It's very rare that you can reuse it. I have seen people take the old stuff off, put it in a bucket of cleaner, give it a wipe. Some brands you can do that, but if I'm honest, it very rarely survives being taken off and put back on again. So I would plan to use new, because this is going to go in the bin. It's definitely going to go in the bin because it's white. I don't know why I did that. It is what it is. And at the end, drag it off, done. That is now, you can see, as I've taken it off, look, it's twisted, it's been under tension for some time. That's not reusable, so that's got to go. So when you open your box of bar tape, you'll usually, it doesn't matter which brand you buy, you usually find the following things. Obviously, there will be some bar tape, and on the inside of this, there'll be some cellophane covering the glue, which you'll need to peel off, and you'll see me do that in a minute. A couple of bar ends, different sorts. These are just good old-fashioned press-in ones like that. If it's a bit more of a premium product, they might be the kind where there's a little captive bolt in the end, like a spreading sort of rule plug type of a system. And the final thing that it will usually come with is some of these, and these are the kind of finishing strips, if you like, for once you've finished and you want to seal the end of the bar tape. Sometimes these are really good, sometimes they're not so good, and as you'll see later in the video, normally I like to finish with some good old-fashioned electrical tape, not rely on these too much, but then put these over the top, especially if they're logoed or they're carrying a brand, because you do want that pro look effectively, and you want your branding to match all the way up the bars. Before we put the new stuff on, it's a good chance to check a few things. Two things specifically. The first thing is, if your bike is a turbo trainer bike especially, or if you're so fast that you take it out in the summer and get pretty sweaty, it's a really good time to have a good look here and look for salt buildup, sweat buildup. And rinse it off. So it will look, if you've got that, it will look like a build-up of, you know, white, powdery, dried up salt. It's pretty gross. It's pretty common as well, especially on turbo trainer bikes. And you don't really want to leave that in place, and it will build up under these hoods, and it will build up under that old bar tape. If you see it there, get some spray cleaner. Alcohol, isopropyl alcohol is pretty good for this, in a kind of a aerosol type bottle. Clean it off, let it dry, because that stuff's lethal. It will corrode the clamp bolts from your shifters, it will work its way into cables. So now is the time to clean it off. The other thing to look for before you go putting your new bar tape on is have a look to see whether your hoses and cables, which you can see here, are still clamped nicely to the bars. So you'll see that underneath the bar tape there's some more tape. So there's about 10 turns here of electrical tape, and that's holding the shifter cable in this particular case and the brake hose in this particular case onto the bars. That needs to be there, because if they're held under good tension around there, the shifting and braking performance is better. Okay, so we've shown you what's in the box. You've got your tape. First thing you're going to have to do is unwrap it. Almost invariably, it's got this long cellophane wrapper around it. And then the minute you take that off, it's probably going to do this. It's fine, doesn't matter, because the best way I've found is just unwrap the whole length like that, get the whole lot out, and be prepared to take this really annoying, fiddly, adhesive cover paper strip off. It's a bit of an annoying thing to manage at this point, so what I tend to do, weirdly enough, is I put my foot on it and I just do that, and get rid of all of this at the start, because otherwise it'll come and catch you out later on. So you can see what I'm doing. Get rid of all of the paper at the start. Dump it on the floor, kick it out of the way, do what you like with it, because you don't want it coming and finding you later on. This bit is important. I'm going to show you how to start. How to start dictates whether you're going to finish well, and there is a good way of doing this. So it's really important at this point that you start from underneath, and it's really important that you wrap from the underneath to the outside, away from the bike. So we always work under, out and away from the bike. And on the other side of the bike, you'd start from underneath, around and away from the bike in that direction. So what we then do is we take one complete turn, and then be prepared to keep some tension on it and start on your way. And you are looking, as you come over, to overlay roughly half of the tape each time. So cover half with each wrap, working your way up. And once we get to here, that's when it gets a little bit more complicated. So let's make our way there now. So quite literally, I'm keeping plenty of tension on it, working my way over, throwing it over my hand each time like that. Keep making those neat wraps, under, over, back over my hand, keep making those neat wraps, and we're just going to keep doing that. And this is very much a balance now of covering enough each time that it stays tight, but if you put it too close together, as in, I'll show you what I mean, if you do that, you're going to use all your bar tape before you even get there. So I'm really looking for that. You can see I've got these neat equal spacings with a kind of a 45-degree pattern going on. Okay, let's carry on. Keep going along. Again, putting plenty of tension on it, because you want to store lots and lots of energy, sort of stretchy energy inside the tape, so it stays nice and tight to the bars once it's actually in use. Once you start traveling around any bend with bar tape, pay attention to what's going to happen on the outside radius of the bend. That's the classic thing. You might have to take it tighter on the inside, because otherwise, as you go around this bend, it kind of wants to space out, and then you can get little gaps in the back. So we're going to make our way up here. Possibly consider tightening it a little bit at this point. Still going around the corner And then when we get to underneath the shifter just there, this is when we do our figure of 8. This is the bit that kind of befuddles brains, but the reality is there's a basic principle to this. This is the figure of 8 part. And if you get this right, you won't need to use those little kind of trim strips that tend to come in the box that cover the back of the clamp. You shouldn't need to do those. And don't be afraid of repeating this. So if it goes around and you do it and you think it's not quite right, just take it off and go again. You can always have 2 or 3 shots with bar tape. If your spacing goes wrong, if you think, oh, I've not hit my mark with it, just unwrap it and go again. It's good for it's not a permanent thing, and it's not a one shot only thing. Okay, so to do your figure of 8 then, take your bar tape around underneath your shifter and then come up the back of the shifter here. So I'm drawing a line with my finger, and this is why I pulled the hood back earlier. You have to wrap the actual shifter body itself. You can't just do the bars at this point. So be prepared to get hold of it and pull it all the way up the back of the black plastic shifter body there. Okay, that's the first part. We then go over the top and we go back around the back of the bars like that, and we make a lovely cross, hence the figure of 8. Make sure there's plenty of tension behind it like that. Bring it back over the top, okay, and pull it tight and start preparing to make your way around this next radius section. But before you do that, a good idea, stick your hoods back and have a look how it looks, because you can redo it. So if you pop that back in place, what you can then ask yourself is, have I got any little kind of open holes at the side? The classic thing is, if you don't take your figure of 8 far enough down the shifter body, what then tends to happen is, just here and just here, you'll have a little triangle of visible shifter and clamp peeping through. And that means that what you need to do is wrap your figure of 8 again, but take it further down the shifter body towards the end of the shifter. Really, really bury more of it. Okay, so we know we've done that right. So I don't really, in this case, need to kind of worry about that hood anymore. So we did the lower part, we nailed our figure of 8, hopefully. Yeah, you did. And we're now going to make our way along this part here, and then we're going to show you how to finish with scissors and tape. This part here can actually be harder, I think, than the figure of 8. And that's because the radius is so tight that you really have to start closing it up at this point to avoid that problem I talked about earlier, where as it travels around the corner, like slices of pizza like that, it kind of wants to open at the back. So you've got to be prepared to tighten it right up at this point. So as I come around here now, I'm really making sure that I kind of pack it a bit tighter than I have been doing previously. So you can see as I come over, again, keeping tension on it, but I'm closing the corners in a little bit more now, if that makes sense. What I'm doing is I'm overlaying it a bit tighter, unlike down here where I was traveling quite quick. At the top, I'm really bringing it in because I want to make sure I don't get this problem. If you leave it too wide open, as you travel around the back of here, you're going to get that there, and that's just not great. So, nice tight wraps as we go over the top. Working our way along, travelling past the corner, and now we can kind of open it up again a little bit more, and we can then start to have a think about where we're going to finish. So on a given set of handlebars, road bars, probably on yours, you'll notice it transitions from a narrow section, all of this here, usually into a thicker area, and there might be some kind of a guide logo there or something like that. Generally speaking, it makes sense to me to finish about where I've just talked about. So where the bars normally kind of fatten up ready for the clamp section, there's usually an upslope, and that's kind of aesthetically quite a good place to finish at, especially if you like to ride on the tops a little bit. So if you like to put your hand here while you're riding, clearly at the minute I haven't got enough bar tape there. If it's an aero bar, as in most of this is wing shaped, you might have already finished. And quite often on something like a specialised aero fly type bar, as you arrive at this point here, the bar has a very clear demarcation on it that says don't really wrap past this point, because there will be a big thick ridge, at which point it then turns into a massive carbon fibre wing effectively. So where you stop your tape is really important. But for a generic round aluminium externally cabled road bike bar, you'll normally come about to here somewhere where you'll see that section open up as I've talked about. So let's keep wrapping. Carrying on over, last few wraps. I've probably timed this to perfection because I'm just about to run out of bar tape. If you get to this point and you're starting to run out of tape and you're thinking, haven't got the bar tape as far along as I want, rewind. Like I said earlier, go back a little bit, space it out a little bit more, and you'll be surprised how much bar tape you can gain by literally putting an extra 2 millimeters between each kind of wrap, because the compound effect of by the time you get over here somewhere, it'll buy you another turn of bar tape. So don't be afraid of thinking, I've used too much bar tape back downstream, I need more. So just unwrap it and just slightly sort of ferret it out a little bit more, if that makes sense. Now, this last part, where we cut with our big scissors, is really important. So we're ready to finish, and we need to achieve a nice, neat line here. Now, the classic mistake people make is when they cut the tape, they kind of snip it like that. They just snip the end off, or they cut it in a line. But the way to do this is get yourself a nice big pair of scissors, keep them to hand. You'll note today I'm wearing an apron with pockets on the front, proper handy for this job because you can just grab what you need. And do this. Get your scissors, lay them on the bars like that, where you want your bar tape to finish. So we've marked that line where we're cutting. You can see the angle. Let's make that cut. Make sure you don't accidentally stick your scissors through one of your hydraulic hoses. That's not a good look. So have a good look before you make that cut. Just ask yourself, are your scissors going where they need to be? And then just start working your way up like that. Get hold of it at this point, because otherwise it'll try and unravel. Let that other bit go, stick your scissors away. And then basically, if you practice this bit a couple of times, you'll see that it's done precisely what I say. It's arrived in a kind of a line. The next thing we're going to do is get our tape. And this is kind of where you need 3 hands now. Don't let it go. Try and keep your thumb on it while you do this next part. Get the end of your tape like that. Some people kind of get this ready and they have it sat there like that on the bars before they even start, and then they pick it up. Yep, it's a good idea. Do that if you want. I forgot today, but it doesn't matter. This bit's really important. Tape this stuff, your electrical tape, in the same direction as the wrap that you've been doing. I know it sounds obvious, but if you now try and tape it in that direction, it's gonna pull all of the tension out of it. So what I do is I just lay the first round on top of it like that, keep hold of it, and then I just start with loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of tension. And I really try and sort of make it sing a little bit because you're looking to finish it. And I just put 2 turns on like that. And then I cut it so that it finishes down the back or underneath. That's not too bad, actually. That's pretty good. Just run your fingers around it, just make sure it's stuck down. You will have some kind of trim finishing strip, if you like. So in this particular case, we've got one here. They always have like a bit of backing paper on them. Sometimes they're made out of 2 or 3 pieces, or they might have a direction. If it's logoed up, then you certainly want to think about making sure that when you put it on, how does the logo look when you look down onto the bars as the rider? Because you don't want one going that way and one going that way. Especially if you've got a little bit of OCD about these things like me. It's kind of my job to have OCD. Pop this off the backing strip, like that. Throw that on the floor, just make sure it ends in the bin at the end, it doesn't really matter. And go in the same direction with this as you did with your electrical tape a minute ago, because the purpose of this is to cover that tape up, but also assist in the kind of holding down of the loose end, the cut end. Pop it over the top of the tape, try and aim it in such a way that it covers the bulk of the electrical tape. Give it a good old pull because you kind of want it to conform. You'll notice like one of the big problems is you get this ridge where it goes from tape to bar. Quite often this stuff, these finishing tapes, they don't usually do a great job of transitioning from one to the other. So I normally put plenty of tension on it because I want it to really drop in. So bring it round the corner, send it over the top. If you've got it right, it'll finish underneath around the back. Look at that. Okay, time to put the bar end plug in. Now you'll remember from earlier in the video, I said there were two types. So I'm going to show you how to use the ones, let's grab it now. It's the one which was like this, where you just shove it in, basically. I'm going to try and use that, see if it takes. I do prefer the locking type. They kind of look a bit more premium as well, so I quite like them. But we'll do this one because this is probably what you're going to find in the bag. So the way to do this, get your hand here. So I grab it and I scrunch it all together like that. Because what I really need to do is trap all of that free end of tape behind this plug. Otherwise you get that nasty annoying thing where a bit's poking out and it just looks extremely untidy. Get your bar plug and you're looking to get hold of the whole lot. Shove it through the hole in your hand like that. Pop it in place. And then have a good look around it. That's not gone on too bad and it's in place. I'll be honest with you, I don't think this one fits that well, and this is a good thing to check. You can see it's not particularly tight. I don't sort of think that's great, so I'm going to take it back out again. These are reusable, much more secure, so buy yourself a set of bar end plugs separately to your bar tape, which you know you can reuse. So let's try doing this one instead. So you can see that I've made that shape again in the cut end of the bar tape. Sticks in place, that's it, in it goes, nice and tight. It's already tight and I haven't even done the bolt up yet. So I'm really working that into place. Straight away, I'm happier with that. Even if I didn't do the bolt up, it wouldn't go anywhere. But grab your hex wrench or Allen key for the UK users out there. Don't use the ball end, use the flat end. Stick it in there. It's probably going to be a 3 or a 2.5 mil. Put a couple of turns on. Don't go mad. Quite often when you do one of these up as well, you'll notice handily, as you do the bolt up, it actually sucks the bar plug in a little bit, which is excellent because it kind of makes it even tighter. Pulls those cut ends in a bit more. There we go. You only need to give it a few turns. That is not going anywhere. Okay. I'm really happy with that. I think that's gone quite well. If it goes as well as that for you, you can say happy days. It's really important to remember it doesn't have to be perfect because perfect doesn't exist when it comes to bar tape. Don't forget, all you're really doing is wrapping some tape around a bent metal pipe. If you break it down to that principle, you can achieve this. And don't forget what I said. If on your way around your travels with your bar tape, it's not going quite where you think it is, stop, go back, unwrap it, look at it again, especially with your figure of 8, have a good few shots at it, practice it, and practice again. In fact, you could even buy yourself 2 rolls of bar tape, some cheap stuff, and then your expensive stuff to really finish the job with, and you can practice with the cheap. It's quite a straightforward job. I've been Jim from jimthebikeguy.com. Hopefully you've enjoyed our bar taping video today. Please let us know in the comments below this video your thoughts, whether you've enjoyed it, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and tell all your friends. Thanks a lot. Speak to you soon.